Guys, have you heard that you can actually stop stuttering just by dealing with negative emotion that you might have been holding inside of your tongue, your mouth, your jaw? And we can clear it by dealing with the emotions that cause those feelings to come there in the first place. Let's talk about it. My name is Danielle. I am the founder of Wusa Holistic Health Coaching, and I am here to talk about all things emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual health. And I had a story today that I just couldn't keep to myself. Now, in years past, have I helped somebody to stop stuttering before? Yes, I have. But I haven't done it for a while, and so I couldn't really remember all of the details of how we were able to have that breakthrough, but it was very exciting. When people have a problem with stuttering, or some people call it stammering, it can literally be such a horrible prison because you feel like you can't effectively communicate. It can work on your confidence. You don't feel like you go on job interviews. You don't feel like you can go on stage and give a presentation. You don't feel like you can speak up at work. You don't feel like you can even speak up in your relationships and tell the truth about how you feel. Stammering and stuttering goes way deeper than just the action itself. It really deeply works on a person's self-esteem, their self-worth, their self-confidence, and it can really cause some major anxiety and depression. And that is why it is so good to know that there is something you can do about it. I want to talk to you about something that happened to me earlier today. I was working with a client, and I will tell you, we've been stuck. And this is why. The brain is only going to allow me and the client to access certain information at the time and place when the brain and the body is ready to deal with it. Here is why. We have a brain that is built to protect us. So that's why so many times people will have an adverse childhood event or experience. They won't remember it. Deep into their adulthood, maybe they might start having flashbacks, or they might start having memories come back. And then all of a sudden they'll realize maybe there was some abuse in their life. Maybe there was some other kind of trauma that they've just buried deep into the subconscious. But the thing of it is, your brain does remember, because that brain is a supercomputer, and it does house every single thing that's ever been said to us, done to us, everything we've ever seen, everything we've ever heard. It's all in there. Well, what does that do? It causes the nervous system to also house all of that information. And so the nervous system requires so much healing based on whenever that thing happened, how it happened, what happened, at what age it happened. So that causes the nervous system to need healing from that event, as well as we need to clear it out from the subconscious, bring it to the conscious, become aware of it, and then go from there to get rid of it. So that's the fun work that I got to do with my clients today, and it's been fantastic. But I must say that the biggest breakthrough that I had was helping a young lady stop stuttering while we were right on the phone together, on a dime. So what happens is, we think we may have ideas of what happened to us, or we may have no clue what happened to us. All we know is that one day we may lose our ability to speak effectively. Now, in some clients, it may show up as TMJ, where the jaw locks because we hold in what we really feel, and we don't feel comfortable saying things. And so the negative emotions will get trapped inside these areas here along the jaw, making the motion of opening and closing the mouth so painful that a person would feel like they don't want to talk. And it has to do with something that happened where whenever they did communicate, it wasn't a safe space. And something bad happened, and maybe they lodged some fear or some anxiety or guilt or shame or something in those muscles, and then that part of the body began to malfunction. Another area could be the throat. Maybe somebody has a lot of problems with their throat, almost like maybe they don't even have a full vocal ability. I was talking to a man when I was still living in Mexico who was actually a doctor. And it was interesting because I was trying to have a conversation with him, but I could barely hear him. It was like very raspy and weak. And I asked the nurse who was working with him, I said, was there ever a time in this doctor's life that he didn't feel heard, or that he got shut down, or that nobody would listen to him, or he wasn't feeling heard? And she's like, how do you know that? And I'm like, well, I don't know it, but there's something about the way his voice is straining that's letting me know that there's negative emotions that are trapped inside of his throat or in his vocal cords, making it hard for me to hear him and make it hard for me to understand him. And so she's like, let me tell you the story. And so she tells me the story, and oddly enough, he went to a surgeon to try to have it corrected, and then they made the problem worse. So his vocal cords got even weaker to where being able to have a normal conversation was just very difficult. When in fact, if they had dealt with the negative emotions that caused his vocal cords to weaken in the first place, he wouldn't have had to go under the knife and things wouldn't have had to get worse. So just fascinating. But let me talk about what happened with the client that I worked with earlier. Excuse me, allergy season. Okay, so I'm working with this person, and mind you, we've been working for months to try to get to the bottom of why the stuttering started happening. We got permission to know when her emotions got involved that caused a problem with her speech, and we did some testing and found out that it was at age 4. But it wasn't until today that her brain and her body was ready to release whatever we needed to know so that we could move it out, release the negative emotions so that the stuttering would stop. So we started doing a bunch of testing on dominant emotions at this age, dominant emotions at that age, and the different things. It was tied to the way she was feeling about some things when she was around 4 years old, some fear that she had around communication. And then there was something else that happened around age 8 where there was an event that made her feel a lot of anger because every time she tried to communicate, she felt like she was being shut down, not heard, and it wasn't safe for her to tell her truth or to ever tell how she really felt. Who knew that children, their nervous system can be so affected, that it could cause a speech impediment. And like I said, it doesn't always show up like that. In fact, it rarely does. But in this case, it did, and it was quite severe. So the next age that popped up for her was 12. And that one was back to fear again. Fear of, why am I so afraid to disappoint? Why am I so afraid to say what I think? Why am I so afraid to let people know the truth of my opinion? Am I so afraid I'm going to let someone down if I talk? Okay, so now we're all these different points through childhood. This is now seen as a traumatic event for this child who at a certain point, it manifested as a severe stutter or stammer, which then of course makes living a normal life very difficult because now you're having a hard time in school. You're having a hard time in public when people want to come up to you and ask you questions and talk to you because you're so afraid of what if the words don't come out? What if they get stuck inside my tongue? What if my tongue is tied and I just can't express what I want to say? And then the humiliation and then the anxiety of what if it happens. And if you have a question, you don't feel that you can raise your hand and ask a question. If you have a comment, you don't feel that you can express it, or even something good to say. You're so afraid that it's not going to come out right. So you're locked in this verbal communicative prison for years because you haven't dealt with the fear or the anger or whatever became a part of who you are, changed the way you see the world. That is what needed to be addressed. There's no surgery in this world that's going to take care of that. I can promise you that, because you still haven't dealt with why it started happening in the first place. It's like putting a big old Band-Aid or a tiny Band-Aid or a giant bullet hole. You're not getting to the problem. You got to get the bullet out. And that's what we needed to do. We needed to get the negative emotions out for the tongue to untie and for the speech to flow freely. Well, guess what? It happened today. Today was the day we finally got permission to unpack all of it. The brain and the body were ready today to handle it. And I was actually super worried that maybe we weren't getting the movement at the speed at which I wanted to, because maybe there was something really bad that happened. And it wasn't. It wasn't anything like an abusive situation. It was nothing like that. It was just the way the child processed how she felt when she tried to talk and she didn't feel either heard or like it went well, or like she was very uncomfortable with the reaction she got when she told the truth. So she just pretty much just shut down, stopped talking. And then when she needed to talk, it would come out as a stammer or a stutter. Just fascinating. So all of a sudden, once we hit the bullseye and the target of all the different ages and what was bothering her in each scenario and what was the dominant emotion that she was holding in her body and those ages and in her mouth, in her tongue, what was the dominant emotion? Once we were able to clear those emotions, all of a sudden something happened. So what I did was I said, okay, we need to figure out what you need to do to continue to clear these emotions out, to untie the tongue. And so we came up with what she needed to do, and it was called EFT, or emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping. To like you hit the pressure points in the correct order, and it starts to like rewire the brain, rewire the thinking patterns. And she needed to do that to be able to clear this fear and anger. Well, the weird thing that happened was after we came up with everything that was needed for the tongue to untie and the stammering and stuttering to stop, before we could even finish kind of taking our notes on everything she needed to do after we got off our call, it stopped completely. Now, I was kind of like freaking out, if I'm going to be honest with you. I was kind of like, am I imagining this? There's not been any stuttering for like 5 straight minutes. And let me just say, this client talks really fast. So I was thinking when I first started working with her, I wonder if part of the problem is her tongue goes way too fast for her brain, and it's just like, just so fast. No. After our session today, when the stammering stopped, like dead in its tracks, on a dime, the second we identified everything that was wrong and everything that was trapped inside of her mouth that she needed to release, the stuttering stopped immediately. And I started tearing up, and I started getting goosebumps, and then she started, and then all of a sudden, I finally said, I want you to tell me something. How do you know that the next time you go to open your mouth to share something in a public setting and you're going to speak that you're not going to stutter? And she's like, I don't know. I said, I want you to think about it. How do you know for sure that you can do it? And she thought about it and she thought about it. And then I was like, how long have you been talking and you have not stuttered one time? And she just started laughing out loud, like, oh, you're right, I can do it. And I'm like, you just proved it to yourself. I am sitting here in disbelief, and I'm sitting here watching it happen. And I was just so flabbergasted, because the other client that I had, when the stuttering and stammering stopped, it wasn't like I was on the call it didn't happen while we were still on the call. There was like follow-up work and homework that had to happen, and then it did happen. But I wasn't present. To be present in the moment when there's a breakthrough like that is so emotional, and it brings you so much joy, and it's so rewarding. And so I just had to tell the story. Wow. How many people are walking around the earth right now, stuttering and stammering, having no idea that they don't have to? Because nobody's born doing that. Nobody's born doing that. Something happens. Something happened in the case of the other gentleman. Something happened in the case of this young lady. Something happened. And it has nothing to do with like, oh, it had to be something really huge to steal our voice. It has to do more with how we felt about it. So in the case of this little girl, how she felt at 4 and 8 and 12, it doesn't matter if it wouldn't have been a big deal to someone else. It was a big deal to her. And now that she's aware of it and she's cleared it, and she's going to finish up with some more tapping to continue to let that process continue to work those emotions all the way out, so she never has to worry about stuttering again. I'm just so excited, because up until now, she hasn't been able to get a job outside of family because she didn't want to have to go through the process of a job interview. And so many things that she has wanted to do, but because of the speech impediment, it held her back in life. Her independence is going to emerge now fully, and she's going to be able to realize the life that she's always wanted. And she just couldn't help but giggle out loud and say, I can't believe this just happened. And I'm like, me either. And we just both kind of shared a moment about it. It was incredible. What is the point of the story? Our emotions, guys. We have to deal with them. We have to unpack them. They're huge, and they're doing so much crazy stuff to our bodies. That's a speech issue. But some of the other issues, like we've talked about on this channel before, it could be cysts or tumors or fibroids, or it could cause a person to be sterile or a woman to be unable to have a child. It can cause anxiety and depression and autoimmune responses and aches and pains and on and on and on. So let's go back to dealing with our stuff. And then we really can find out who we are, because we're not over here nursing, licking wounds, but having no idea how to release the wounds and heal the nervous system at all these different places and all these different ages where we got stuff stuck in there and it just needs to come out. So that is a fantastic example of how dealing with negative emotion can be so healing and be life-changing. That's why this channel is so important to me. That's why helping to grow the subscribers is important to me. That's why having a like is important to me, because I need more people out there to know. Who knows how many thousands upon thousands of people, maybe even millions, are stuttering or having some other speech impediment or some other issue, but they don't know that there's something they can do about it. Or maybe they just hurt all over, but nobody knows why. Let's see if we can't deal with these emotions and give people their life back. So that's my message for today, guys. There is something we can do. It's not just about the pills and the surgeries. It's not. It goes so much deeper than that. And let's please help me get the message out so we can help more people and grow this community. By the way, please keep your eyes open for the information coming out about the upcoming masterclass. I really, really want everybody to come, because this masterclass is going to be dealing with our feminine and masculine energy and how we can use that to heal our nervous system and our health and our relationships. I can't wait. It's coming up very soon, but please do not take your eyes off, because it will be released, the date, the dates, and the price and all of that. So I really, really want it to be a full participating group of people. It'll be 3 parts to it. And I really, really want you guys to come. Tell anybody that you think would be interested. Also, it'll also be on the website, woosacoaching.com. If you do have a question for me, please go to my website and leave it there. Or you can even leave it here in the comments and I will see it. I will find it. Tell me if you know somebody that stutters or stammers that could benefit from this information, or would like a free call with me so that I can help show them that I can help them to stop. I can show them what they need to do to stop. And what a gift to somebody to be able to have freedom of speech and to be able to communicate effectively, and so they can have their confidence back. That's what we want, people. We want everybody healthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And that's what we do here at Woosa Coaching. So thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you tomorrow. I'm so sorry this past week was cuckoo with me traveling to do hair. I know many of you know that I wear that other hat, but I don't all the time. But I'm so happy to be back here with you talking about our health, because our health is our wealth, and without it, what are we gonna do? So don't forget to woosah, guys, because remember, the body cannot heal in an agitated space. I'll see you soon. Bye.